नमः सर्वेभ्यः सर्वेषां शुभसायंकालं सर्वेषां संस्कृतसमिते कार्यक्रमार्थं स्वागतं सुस्वागतम्। विशेषतया अहम् अस्मिन् कार्यक्रमस्य मुख्य अतिथि श्रीमान् प्रतीकमुरली महोदयान् सादरप्रणामेन स्वागतं करोमि। प्रार्थनागीतेन कार्यक्रमस्य शुभारम्भं कर्तुम् अहं डॉक्टर कल्याणी गोपाल महोदया आह्वानं करोमि। Namaste, very good evening to all of you. Sanskrit Samiti IIT Madras welcomes you all for this event. We specially welcome the chief guest of the event, Shriman Pratik Murali Mahodaya. Now I request Dr. Kalyani Gopal to start the event with an invocation.
चक्रकरं अभयकरं मणिमयभूषं फणामणिभूषं चक्रकरं अभयकरं मणिमयभूषं फणामणिभूषं विधृतधनुं गिरिधनुषं वन्दे विधृतधनुं गिरिधनुषं वन्दे गोविन्दम् अनघगोवाहं वन्दे गोविन्दम् अनघगोवाहं वन्दे
इदानीम् अहं समितेः परिचयं कर्तुं श्री हरिगणेश महोदयम् आह्वयामि। Thank you. Now I request Sri Hari Ganesh to give a brief introduction to the Sanskrit Samiti.
सभायै नमः नमः सर्वेभ्यः सर्वेषां शुभसायङ्कालम् संस्कृतसमितिः भारतीयप्रौद्योगिकसंस्थाने एकः विद्यार्थीनां सङ्घः अस्ति अस्य समितेः शुभारम्भं हेविलम्बी नाम संवत्सरे वसन्तपञ्चमी शुभदिवसे काञ्ची शङ्कराचार्याणाम् आशीर्वादेन अभवत् ततः आरभ्य संस्कृतसमितेः अध्वर्ये विद्यार्थीनां तथा एतत् संस्थाने निवसन्तः संस्कृतप्रियाणां कृते संस्कृत अध्ययनार्थं विविधप्रारूपेषु कार्यक्रमाः संस्कृतप्रवचनानि तथा संस्कृतकाव्यानाम् अध्ययनं तथा संस्कृतगीतानां गायनं प्रचलिताः तेषु प्रारूपेषु संस्कृतप्रवचनानि अत्यन्तं गुरुत्तमकार्यक्रमाणि संस्कृतप्रवचनानाम् उपलब्धवैशिष्ट्यफलार्थं संस्कृतभाषया तथा आङ्ग्लभाषया अपि प्रवचनं दातुं श्रीमान् प्रतीक् मुरली महोदयः अग्रे आगतवन्तः एतत्तु अस्माकं प्रति प्रवर्षिन् गुरु आशीर्वादसहित दैवकृपा सभायै नमः गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन संस्कृत समिति is an independent student body recognized by IIT Madras. This student body was started with the blessings of Sri Kanchi Shankaracharya on the auspicious day of Vasanta Panchami of the year Hevilambi. Since its inception, the Samiti has been organizing various programs such as talks in Samskrita, reading Sanskrit texts, and singing Sanskritam songs. Talks in Samskrita have been the most important of all these. Recognizing the benefits of Samskrita Pravachana today, Sriman Pratik Murali Mahodaya has accepted our invitation to speak both in Sanskrit and English. So, Sriman Pratik Murali Mahodaya was basically associated with Sundaram and Srinivasan Chartered Accountant. Now he is a full-time researcher in the field of in inscriptions and in manuscriptology. Sriman Pratik Murali Mahodaya has given a lot of talks on Doordarshan and All India Radio on topics related to culture, heritage, and history. He has also lectured in the annual conference of Tamil Heritage Trust and Tamil Virtual Academy on the history of Pandya literature. He has given a number of lectures in YouTube, like through his YouTube channel, as well as in Facebook, regarding various topics such as handloom traditions, Chola temples, architecture and history, at various organizations like Intact and all. Apart from that, he has also given a lot of talks at various schools and colleges to encourage conservation and interest on heritage, history, and Indic arts from an academic perspective. Yes, so he's also conducted a lot of heritage walks and tours to enthusiasts and students who wish to appreciate art and temples. As a writer, he has also published a journal titled Painting Traditions of Tamil Land in the journal Muse India. And he has also published a lot of articles on being queer in ancient India, a historical perspective, sati, self-immolation among ancient Tamils, etc. He is founder member of the Sahagamana Foundation, an NGO to promote arts, heritage, history, and literature. And through this Sahagamana, he has conducted various successful events like Utkala Varna, Patti Chitra, which is a painting fair done by this fair included the paintings of the traditional artists from Odisha, traditional painters from Odisha. So this NGO has also helped various rural artists and raised awareness among various traditions in India. So as far as like as I noticed, like recently Pratik Mahodaya through the NGO has helped a lot of rural artists, especially recently the traditional handloom weavers of Kanchipuram. They had lost their livelihood because of this COVID-19 lockdown, and he has helped them a lot through this NGO. And he has also helped in the relocation of the migrant workers through the during the COVID-19 crisis. So he is also a consultant for conservation architecture firms to build dossiers on temples and with reference to their beliefs. And he knows nearly around 6 languages, and he's one. It's a very rare to find such a person like him at a very young age. So he's younger than me. At a very young age, to have a very scholarly knowledge of both Tamil and Sanskrit. So, and he's apart from the 6 languages, he also can easily decipher various scripts, especially the Pallava scripts, which was used, the Pallava Grantha script, which was used by the Pallavas to write the Sanskrit inscriptions, as well as he can decipher the Brahmi inscriptions also. And he's a student of Professor Shankar Narayanan from Shri, who is a professor at Shri Chandrasekharendra Saraswati Vishwa Mahavidyalaya, Kanchipuram. So, indeed, Sanskrit Samiti is honored to host such a great talent like Pratik Mahodaya. So, I welcome Pratik Mahodaya to kindly deliver the lecture on the much awaited topic. Thank you very much. Thank you.
नमः सर्वेभ्यः गुरुभ्यः। वस्तुतः अस्माकं भारतदेशे बहूनां राजपरम्पराणां शासनानि आभारतं व्याप्य, काश्मीरम् आरभ्य कन्याकुमारी पर्यन्तम् आभारतं व्याप्य सर्वत्रापि उपलभ्यन्ते। विशिष्टरूपेण दक्षिणभारते तु विशिष्टानि राज्यानि यथा पाण्ड्य, चोळ, पल्लवादि राज्यानि स्वकीयं शासनं द्रविडभाषायामपि लिखितवन्तः एव, संस्कृते अपि विलिख्य संस्कृतभाषायाः, संस्कृतस्य प्रचारम् एवं च स्वस्य नैपुण्यं च तत्र प्रकटयामासुः इत्येव वयं वक्तव्यम्। विशिष्य पल्लवानां यत् शासनमस्ति, पल्लवानां शासनेषु संस्कृतस्य यः प्रभावः अस्ति, या प्रौढता अस्ति, सा तु अन्यत्र न द्रष्टुं शक्यते इत्यपि वयं वक्तुं शक्यते। तत्तु पूर्वमेव तृतीयशकात् आरभ्य पल्लवसाम्राज्यस्य शासनेषु संस्कृतभाषायाः, संस्कृतस्य प्रभावः दृश्यते। पूर्वं तत् प्राकृतभाषायाम् अस्ति, परन्तु संस्कृतभाषायाः प्रभावं तु द्रष्टुं शक्यते। विशिष्टरूपेण षष्ठात् शतकात् आरभ्य पल्लवानां शासनेषु विद्यमानस्य संस्कृतस्य प्रभावः, तत्कालकवीनां प्रभावं, एवं च नैपुण्यं च प्रदर्शयति इति वयं वक्तुं शक्यते। महेन्द्रवर्मा इति प्रसिद्धः एकः महाराजः, सः स्वयं कविरपि आसीत् इति अपि अस्ति। तत्तु वयं भगवदज्जुक, तदनन्तरं मतविलासप्रहसनादि, रूपककर्ता सः इत्यपि शिलालेखैः एवं अन्यैः रूपकैः च वयं तत् ज्ञायते। एवं राजाः अपि कवयः अभूवन् इति हेतोः पल्लवराजानां शासनेषु संस्कृतस्य प्रौढिमा अत्यन्तं भूयते। तादृशेषु शासनेषु विशिष्य तेषां यत् परम्परायाः यत्र वर्णनं भवति, तत् पौराणिकपरम्परा अपि अस्ति, तत् यत् परम्परायाः यत्र वर्णनं भवति, तदनन्तरम् एवं युद्धादिषु जयः, युद्धवर्णनम्, एवं तेषां बिरुदनामानि, तदपि बिरुदनामानि पश्यामः चेत् अन्यत्र कुत्रापि यत् न लभ्यते तादृशं बिरुदम् एतैः अङ्गीकृतं भवति। बाहुल्येन इमानि बिरुदानि संस्कृतसाहित्ये, संस्कृतसाहित्यवाङ्मये, रामायणादिषु एवं च कालिदासकृतिषु च दृश्यते। तथापि एतैः अतीव विचित्रतया इमानि बिरुदानि पल्लवराज्ञः धारितानि, एवम् उटङ्कितानि एवं च तस्य वर्णनमपि तद् यद् युद्धवर्णनम् अस्ति एतत् सर्वम् अस्ति तस्य वर्णनमपि अत्यन्तं वर्णनातीतं कृतम् इति वयं वक्तुं शक्यते इति तेषां कारिकानां कवीनां प्रभावम् अत्र सम्यक् प्रदर्शयति यथा दण्डी भारवी प्रभृतयः कवयः अभूवन् तेषां कवीनां प्रभावः यथा तेषां भाषायां भवति तद्वत् एव अत्र अमीषां पल्लवानां शासनेषु अपि प्रभावः भूयशः द्रष्टुं शक्यते इत्येव तत्र तस्य विशेषः भवति। तादृशेषु शासनेषु काञ्चीपुरे कैलासनाथः इति इदानीं यद् आलयं वयम् उच्यमाने आलयं देवालयं यद् अस्ति तद् इदानीं कैलासनाथः इति उच्यमाने देवालयं तत् पूर्वं तस्य नाम राजसिंहपल्लवेश्वरगृहम् इति आसीत्। तत् देवालये एवं च महामल्लपुरे महाबलिपुरम् इति उच्यमाने महामल्लपुरे अवन्तिसुन्दरिकथायां महामल्लपुरे देवः स्वैरं वारिधि सन्निधौ इति वर्ण्यमाने महामल्लपुरे तत्र समुद्रस्य तीरे स्थित तत् यत् देवालयम् अस्ति तद् देवालये च विद्यमानानि शिलाशासनानि शिलालेखाः च तथा तेषां भाषा प्रावीण्यम् एवं तत् संस्कृतभाषायाः प्रौढिमा एवं संस्कृतप्रचारे बद्धदीक्षतां च प्रकटयन्ति इति निश्चयेन वयं वक्तुं शक्यते। एवं संस्कृतस्य पोषकाः अपि ते अभूवन् तेषां ताम्रशासनेषु अपि दृश्यते। तेषां ताम्रशासनेषु विशेषतया पल्लवमल्लः इति गीयमानस्य द्वितीयनन्दिवर्मणः तस्य शास्त्रनैपुण्यम् एवं अतः राजानः शास्त्रनैपुण्यम् एवं साहित्यादिषु तस्य प्रावीण्यं च तत्र वर्णितं भवति। तत्र राजानः अपि कवयः अभूवन् इति हेतोः शासनेषु तद् भूयसा दृश्यते इत्येव तेषां शासनानां विशेषः इति वयं वक्तुं पारयामः। इदानीम् आङ्ग्लभाषायां पल्लवानाम् इतिहासम् एवं शिलाशासनानां विषये हरस्य हरहासरूपम् इति विषये यथाशक्ति विवरणं दातुं प्रभवामि। नमस्ते. Thank you for IIT Madras and Sanskrit Samiti of IIT Madras for hosting me. So I will, after that brief introduction in Sanskritam, I will get into the topic in English. When we go into, I will just touch upon the political history of Pallavas for a very, very brief note to just get a context as to the chronology and things. And then we will get into the Shilashasanas. So we have the Kalabhra rule in Tamil Nadu, generally accepted thing. And the Kalabhra rule ends is when the Pallavas take shape in the north of Tamil Nadu. And during the Kalabhra rule is when it is generally believed, although there are other theories, that Silappatikaram and Manimekalai are probably composed during these periods. Not much of tangible evidence is available to us from this period. No Shila Shasanas that are available, except for very scanty references that are there. And later sources such as the Veldikudi copper plates of the Pandyas let us know something about the Kalabhras. Now the Kalabhra rule ends, and that is when the Pallava clan comes into picture. There are various theories as to who the Pallavas were. There were some theories that were proposed that they were from Southeast Asia. Some people said that they are from some Central Asia. They were called Pahlavas, and here they became the Pallavas. But those theories are not accepted today. They are, quashed, and is generally accepted among academia that they are the feudatories of the earlier Shatavahanas who were ruling the southern part of the country. And they claim, but this is the historical what we as in academia say that which is their origins. But their claim is a little different. They say that they have some mythical origins, such as from Brahma, Bharadwaja, etc., which we will see later through their inscriptions, which comes through Drona Ashwatthama, and to Ashwatthama was born a Pallava, and he is the Agraganya of the clan of Pallavas. So, which we will see in detail when we come to the Shila Shasana. Historically, if we see, major copper plate grants form the earliest records of the Pallavas, official records of the Pallavas. So they are mostly in Prakrit. The earlier copper plates are in Prakrit, and later they go on to become Sanskritam. So the major plates are Hirahadagalli plates, Maidavodu plates, and the Charudevi plates. And later you have the Puram plates and other Velurpalayam plates, etc. Now, later Sanskrit is used, and numerous records start appearing. Mahendravarman is kind of, is very, very important in Pallava history, because as we saw in the introduction itself, he was a great scholar of Sanskrit, and he himself has composed many natakas like Bhagavad Ajjukam and Mattavilasa Prahasanam, which we will not get into in detail, but just a knowledge would help. So right from 4th century itself, because the copper plates say that they have been issued from Kanchi. So Kanchi has been a center for the Pallavas. They were Vedic kings, and they have Shivaskanda Varman, who is a predecessor of Mahendra Varman, has done Ashwamedha, Vajapeya, and Agnishtoma. All these yajnas have been conducted by them. And during the 5th to 6th centuries, just before Mahendra Varman, is when it all takes shape. And as I said, the previous copper plates are all in Prakritam. Now Sanskritam starts appearing. And in Kuram plates, Tamara Shasanam of Parameshwara Varman, which will be later than Mahendra Varman, he uses both Sanskritam, and now Tamil comes into picture. That is the, how the language develops. And if you look at Mahendra Varman's father, Simha Vishnu, we do not get any major inscriptions or copper plates that have been issued by Simha Vishnu. But Mahendra, we get a lot of inscriptions, because Mahendra is the person who starts using stone as a medium for monuments. So whatever Pallava monuments we get today, it all starts, whatever is tangibly available to us, it all starts from Mahendra Varma's period only. You have your Siyamangalam, Tiruchi, Mahendravadi, Mamandur, Dalavanur, etc. So many temples, cave temples, that have been built by Mahendra Varman, that have been taken by Mahendra Varman. And there he has inscribed a lot of inscriptions, and from there the Pallava records start appearing in as rock cut inscriptions that are available. And in his literature also, if we take, in Mattavilasa Prahasanam, he says Pallava Kula Dharani Mandala Kula Parvatasya Rajarajasya Shri Simha Vishnu Varmanaha Putraha Shatru Shadvarga Vigrahaparaha Parihata Paratantrataya Mahabhuta Sadharma Maharajnyoho Shri Mahendra Vikrama Varma Nama. That is how he is introducing himself, and therefore we get an idea as to, his Sanskrit prowess is one thing, but he introduces himself as Simha Vishnu's son also. So that is Simha Vishnu Varmanaha Putraha. That is what he says in Mattavilasa Prahasanam. And even if you look at the Avanti Sundari Katha, which was composed by Dandi under the Pallavas, Pallaveshu Mahipalaha Simha Vishnu Iti Shrutaha, that is being told by Dandi. And incidentally, because our topic is not political history, and it is only inscriptions, I have taken these inscriptions to show how these kings would have looked. Because this is in the Valavendai cave, or what is called as the Parameshwara Varma Mahavaraha Vishnu Griham. In Mahabalipuram, usually Thiruvidandai is where people will go. Thiruvalavendai is a small cave temple that is usually not opened up for people, and sometimes you can, when the Archakas go for the puja, we can go and have a look. So there, these two kings are there, and we find the Pallava Grantha inscriptions that say Simhavilnu Pottadirajan, Sri Mahendra Pottadirajan. There are theories whether this is Mahendra 1, 2, some people even say it is Mahendra 3, all of that is there, but I think it is much clear because Simhavishnu is also there. It is, it is Mahendra 1 and Simhavishnu. So there is a labeling inscription that is there. So that is what I was trying to say. It is in Mahabalipuram. And then comes Narasimhavarman, where his conquest of Vatapi is spoken about in great detail against the Chalukyas. They describe themselves as Prakriti Amitraha, natural enemies they are, and therefore Ajanma Vairi they both are, and therefore the conquest of Vatapi of the Chalukyas is described in great detail. And like how Agastya destroyed the demon Vatapi, like that Narasimhavarma destroyed the Chalukya Vatapi. That's how they poetically this thing. And Mahamalla, he is only called Mahamalla. The lineage continues into Mahendravarman and Parameshwaravarman 1. And Parameshwaravarman's monuments, it is considered that Ganesharatha in Mahabalipuram is a work of Parameshwaravarman. And Kuram Vidyavinita Pallaveshwara Griham is again a work of Parameshwaravarman. We will be looking at inscriptions from Ganesharatha, and that is why I am introducing the Kalakrama or the chronology here. Next is Rajasimha, whose inscriptions we will be seeing in great detail today. Narasimhavarman II, he is otherwise called, his name. Shore temple that is iconic in any temple, even movies. If you want to show Tamil Nadu or Madras, it will be Shore temple probably. You have the monumental Kailashanatha temple. You have the Talagirishwara in Panamalai. Then you have, we will be looking at his shrines and the inscriptions from that. Queen Rangapataka, that is a controversy. Professor Shankar Narayanan gives another theory that it may not be the queen, but it can be the mother of Rajasimhan, the reason for which also we will see. Many laurels, many titles that, as I said in the Sanskrit introduction, so many birdas that are ascribed to him also we will be looking at. Then it continues Mahendravarman III, then Parameshwaravarman II, and Nandivarman Pallavamalla. He was a Vaishnava king who built the Vaikuntha Perumal temple, etc. Now, moving into our core topic with that very basic introduction of the political history, Mahabalipuram or Mamallapuram, it is one among the 108 Divya Kshetras, and it is sung by the Alvars. All that glories is there. Appears as the central place of plot in the Avanti Sundari Katha of Dandi. And as we already saw, Mahamallapure Devaha Swairam Varidi Sannidhav. He starts with the Vishnu here, Narapati Vishnu, the Vishnu who is here, and he starts with that Mahamallapure Devaha Swairam Varidi Sannidhav. He is sleeping near the sea, and that is how Avanti Sundari Katha ultimately unfolds. So when you look at that, the inscriptions that we see are the titles or the birdas that Rajasimha has inscribed in the Pancharathas, out of which we will be taking the Dharmaraja Ratha, and out of that Dharmaraja Ratha inscriptions also we will see only few of them, very few titles. Then you have the Atirana Chanda inscription, you have the Ganesha Ratha inscription, and then in the Ganesha Ratha inscription itself and in other places also it appears a curse of non-Shiva Bhaktas. In whoever heart Shiva is not there, let them be cursed. That is one inscription that's very interesting that we will see. So moving into the Dharmaraja Ratha inscriptions, some titles, I've only taken sample of them, many titles are there. Some titles are Shri Narasimhaha, Prithvivisaraha, Shri Bharaha, Bhuvana Bhajanaha, Shri Meghas Trailokya Vardhanaha Vidhihi, Atyanta Kamaha, Aneko Bhayaha, Stira Bhaktihi, Madanabhiramaha Vidhihi, Apratihata Asanaha, Kama Lalitaha, Sakala Kalyana, Nayana Manoharaha, Atimanaha. And what is written here is Shri Narasimhaha. And I have to thank Shri Rangaratnam Gopu. I think sir is also present today. He is my Pallava Grantha Guru. So if I am able to read even a little bit of this, he did the Aksharabhyasam to me. So this is what is written here is Shri Narasimhaha. So that is his name, and naturally he has inscribed that. And Prithvi Saraha. So Sara, he is the best among the people in earth, he says. So Prithvi Saraha. But there is a spelling mistake, not a typo error in my this thing. He himself has inscribed this as Prithvi Saraha. Small this thing, we will look at it just in a bit. Shri Bharaha. He is filled with the Shri or wealth. So Shri Bharaha. Bhuvana Bhajanaha. He is he's the owner of the world. Bhuvana Bhajanaha. Shri Meghaha. He is like the cloud that is, that is holding Shri or wealth. So he is ready to shower wealth on anybody who comes. So Shri Meghaha. Then Trailokya Vardhanaha. Vardhana, prosperity. Trailokya. He makes the three worlds prosper into, better things. Atyanta Kamaha. He is having a lot of, he's a man of endless desire. Atyanta Kama. His desires are not at all limited. Where it is not limited is a question. Anybody can be Atyanta Kama. So he says a very interesting birda, Atyanta Kama, and he has endless desire. But desire towards what is a question? He says Shiva Padeyastume Nityam Atyanta Kama. His desire towards Shiva is Atyanta in Shiva Archana, which we will see in Atirana Chanda inscription also. Very, very interesting this thing. Many people say many things, but this is the actual place where his Kama is Atyanta. Anekopayaha. He who knows, where upaya, he knows many ways of getting through stuff. Sthira bhakti, he has sthira bhakti, achala bhakti towards Shiva. Madanabhiramaha, he is very handsome. Madana is Manmatha, Cupid, and he is as handsome as Cupid. Apratihata sanaha, he can never be won over. Then Kama Lalitaha, it's actually Lalitaha, where he is, of course, he is as handsome as Manmatha, Kama Lalitaha, Sakala Kalyanaha, very auspicious, Mayana Manoharaha, you can keep looking at him, he is so beautiful. Atimanaha, he's a big man, huge man. So if you look at the inscriptions here, the first one reads as Thira Bhaktihi. So the Samyukta Aksharas, if you see, this is Sa, this is Tha, and this is the E Matra. Sthira Bhaktihi. The Ka is on top, Ta is below, E Bhaktihi. Sthira Bhaktihi. This is Trailokya Vardhanaha Vidhihi. Trailokya Vardhanaha Vidhihi. Shri Narasimhaha, and it goes on. Shri Narasimhaha. And here if you see, Pridhivi Saraha Shri Bharaha is what is written. So Pridhi. So there are two theories. One is that Prithvi is written as Prithivi because of some Tamil influence over that, because there are no Vargaksharas in Tamil. Therefore, probably Tha, Da had no difference. He is written as Prithivi Saraha. Some other theory is that Tha and Da have only one difference, one small dot inside or a small curvature from here. So it could be that typographical error where he has left to carve it. Probably the sculptor was just an illiterate man. He was just written and given in a palm leaf or something like that. He has left out that. Therefore, it is Prithvi Saraha, typo error. Therefore, it became Prithvi Saraha. Some things like this do occur. Even in Kailasanatha, we will notice one error, that is, carving error. So this is Prithvi Saraha, Shri Bharaha. The meanings we have already seen. Now we go into the important this thing, which is the Atirana Chanda Mantapa. It is near the tiger caves in a village called Saluvan Kuppam. So in Rajasimha, this is an inscription of Rajasimha, and in 8th century CE, he has written two inscriptions which you can see in the photograph in the slide, and one is in Nagara Lipi, one is in Pallava Lipi. Almost it is the same shlokas, it is just an exact copy that he has done in the different lipis that are. So the Mantapa, the village is called as Atirana Chanda Mantapa during the Pallava times, Atirana Chanda Mantapa. And during there is also a Rajaraja Chola inscription that is there on the ground, and that says that this grama is called as Tiruvizhachil. Tiruvizhachil, it was called in the Chola times, and later today it is called as Saluvan Kuppam. Probably after the Saluva Narasimha's rule, it is called as Saluvan Kuppam. So the temple that you see here, it is called as the Atirana Chanda Pallaveshwara Griham. That is the name of the temple that we see. And if you look at the temple, just notice behind the linga, the Somaskanda. We will come to it a little later. So in these shlokas, we will again notice various birdas that he gives himself hidden inside the shlokas. Atyanta Kamaha, Shri Nidhihi, then Kamaragaha, Shri Bharaha, Ranajayaha, Anugrashilaha, Kalakalaha, Samaradhananjayaha, Sangramadhiraha. These are the titles that we will see in the due course when we are looking at these shlokas. So starting with this thing, Srimato अत्यन्तकामस्य द्विषद्दर्पापहारिणः श्रीनिधेः कामरागस्य हराराधनसङ्गिनः अभिषेकजलापूर्णे चित्ररत्नाम्बुजाकरे आस्ते विशाले सुमुखः शिरश्शरसि शङ्करः. Very beautiful shlokas where he starts by saying Shrimatah, he has Shri, he is Shriman. So Shrimato Atyanta Kamasya, in Sashti Vibhakti, Atyanta Kamasya, of Atyanta Kama, the man who has endless desires. Atyanta Kamasya, Dvishad Darpa Apaharinaha. Dvishat is the enemy. Darpa is his pride. Dvishad Darpa Apaharinaha. Apahari, to take away. Shrimato Atyanta Kamasya, Dvishad Darpa Apaharinaha. Srinidehe, that abode of Shri, Srinidehe, Kama Ragasya, Kama Raga, he has lovable love. Srinidehe, Kama Ragasya, where is it that Atyanta Kama is coming from? And there he says, Hara Aradhana Sanginaha, always wants to worship Shiva's feet. Hara Aradhana Sanginaha, Srimato Atyanta Kamasya, Vishaddarpapaharinaha, Srinidehe Kamaragasya, Hara Aradhana Sanginaha. And the next shloka is very, very important. It says, Abhisheka Jalapurne Chittararattanambujakare Aste Vishale Sumukha Shirasharasi Shankaraha. It says, Shirasharasi Shankaraha Aste. So, he says that Shiraha Saras, his head is like a pond. Now, how that pond is Abhisheka Jalapurne. It is filled with Abhisheka Jala. What is that Abhisheka Jala? Probably is Pattabhisheka Jala. And he is wearing so many jewels in his head, and therefore it looks like a lot of ratna and the flowers that he is wearing. Chitra Ratna Ambujakare. Ambuja is lotus. So Chitra Ratna Ambujakara. That is how the pond that is his head is looking as. So Abhisheka Jalapurne Chitra Ratnambujakare, there what is happening? Aste Vishale Sumukha Shirasarashi Shankaraha. Vishale Shirasi Sumukha Aste, very Prasanna Shiva Sumukha is residing in that head, he says. So, if you look at the Tiruchi inscription of Mahendra Verma, he says that his head has become Krutartha because of wearing Shiva's, Shiva on it, because of placing Shankara on it. And therefore, Professor Shankaranarayanan gives a very beautiful conclusion that there is a possibility that these Pallava kings were wearing, a linga or some sort of a Shiva deity inside their heads, and they had it as an abharana. So that's very clear when we look at such rupakas that are coming in these, shlokas. Abhisheka Jalapurne Chitrarattanambujare Vishale Sumukha Shirasarashi Shankaraha. Then he moves on. Tena idam karitam shambhoho bhavanam bhutaye bhuvaha kailasa mandaranibham bhubhratam murdhni dishtata. So for the welfare of earth, Bhutaye Bhuvaha, for the welfare of earth, it was constructed by him. Tena idam karitam. By him it was constructed. Tena idam karitam. Bhavanam Shambhoho karitam. This is the house of Shiva that has been constructed. How it is looking like Kailasa Mandaranibam. It is like as if Kailasha and or Mandara Parvata. So it is like that, very beautifully, very magnificently constructed like Kailasha and Mandara mountains. Tena idam karitam Shambhoho bhavanam bhutaye bhuvaha Kailasa Mandaranibam bhubratam murdhini tishtata. And this is a shloka that repeats itself in many places. It says, Bhakti Prakhvena Manasa Bhavam Bhushana Lilaya Doshnacha Yo Bhuvam Dhatte Jiyat Saha Shri Bharas Chiram. Shri Bharaha Chiram Jiyat. That Shri Bhara, one who is filled with the Shri or Lakshmi, Chiram Jiyat, may he always, be victorious, Chiram, or live forever and ever and ever. So, Shri Bharaha Chiram Jiyat, may that Shri Bhara be ever victorious. And what does he do? Bhakti Prakhvena Manasa Bhavam Bhushana Leelaya Dhatte. he, because of his bhakti prahva, the manas or his heart that is filled with bhakti, bhavam bhushana leelaya dhatte. He is carrying Shiva bhava like a child's play. And doshna acha yo bhuvam datte. Bhavam Shiva he is wearing in his mind because of the bhakti, and bhuvam, the world, he is carrying it as an ornament, as though the bhara of the bhuva, of the world, is nothing, as if the heavy weight of the world is nothing. He is just carrying it as a child's play. And the very, very beautiful meter also comes into play. And, Atirana Chandaha Patirava Nibhujam Atirana Chandeshwaram Idam Akarotiha Giritanaya Guha Ganasahito Niyata Krita Ratihi Bhavatu Pashupatihi. Such beautiful meter that he plays into. He says, Atirana Chandaha Patihi Avanibhujam Patihi. Atirana Chanda, who Ranachanda, he is a warrior in war, great warrior in war. Atirana Chanda is the greatest warrior in war. Patihi Avanibhujam Patihi is the he's the Pati of the world. Avanibhujam Patihi. Atirana Chandeshwaram Idam Akarod. He has done this temple that is called as Atirana Chandeshwara. Atirana Chandeshwaram Idam Akarod. Here, what should happen? Giritanaya Guha Ganasahito Neta Kritaratihi Bhavatu Pashupatihi. Pashupatihi Iha Kritaratir Bhavatu. May Pashupati be here always playful, always, making his world, the whole world is a play for Pashupati. So therefore, let that Leela of Pashupati unfold in this griha, in this temple. And how should he be? He should not come alone. As we already saw, he is sitting with Uma and Skanda. Therefore, he says, Giritanaya Guhagana Sahitaha Neta Kritaratihi Bhavatu Pashupati. That Pashupati should always be here along with Giritanaya, who is Parvati, Parvataraja's Kumari, Giritanaya. Iha, Giritanaya, Guha, Skanda should be there, Gana Sahito, all the Shiva Ganas should come here, the whole Kailasa should be shifted to Atirana Chanda Pallaveshwara Griham, and they should all be here doing their Nitya Leelas from here. And Gurvim, Ishana Bhaktim, Shriyam Atishayinim, Durvaham, Bharamurvya, Nissamanyam Chadanam, Samamatirana Chandakya, Yo Bhivarti, Sthane Nirmapite Asminne, Vidya Ranajaya Kyatina, Tena Bharta, Bhutanam, Ashtamurtihi, Charam, Atirana Chande, Chiram, Atirana Chandeshware, Yatunishtam. So, the beautiful Sraddhara this is. The flow itself gives it away. The beautiful Sraddhara that he has written, that Gurvim, Ishana Bhaktim, Shriyamati Shayinim, Durvaham, Bharamurvya, Nissamanyan Chadanam, Samamati Ranachandakya, Yo Bhivarti. So he says, Gurvim, Ishana Bhaktim, Gurvi, very heavy. The Guru, it is very heavy. Gurvim, Ishana Bhakti. What is very heavy? His bhakti towards Shiva is very heavy. Gurvim, Ishana Bhaktim, Shriyam, Atishayinim, the Shriyam or the wealth of his Atishayinim Shriyam is abundant. We are all astonished by the wealth that he is having. So Gurvim Ishana Bhakti, very heavy Shiva Bhakti is his, and very auspicious wealth that is there with him is abundance. Durvaham Bharamurvyaha, the heavy Urvi is world, the heavy weight of the world. He is, carrying it very easily because he is the king. He carries the weight of the world because of his danda. Nissamanyam cha danam. He has given so much as danam that nissamanyam, there is no equal for his danam. Samam atirana chandakya yo bhivarti. All of this is at least okay, but he is carrying the great title that is called Atirana Chanda. Atirana Chandakya yaha bhivarti. Sthane nirmapite asminne, sthane nirmapitaha. In a very good place, he has done the nirmapanam or the consecration of this temple. Vidita ranajaya kyatina tena bharta. So he has done this temple, and his name is Ranajaya, which is Rajasimha. Bhutanam Ashtamurti. There's a small spelling error there. Bhutanam Ashtamurtihi. Chiram Atirana Chandeshware Yatu Nishtam. Nishtam Yatu Ashtamurtihi. That Ashtamurti, the 8 forms which he takes, Lord Shiva, may him Chiram always Atirana Chandeshware, in this temple that is called as Atirana Chandeshwara Yatu Nishtam, may he always stay in this place. This is like the dedication inscription of the temple. And then he makes Anugrashila. Ugra Shila is a person who has always Ugra, or he is always ferocious. Anugra Shila. Shila is his own temperament. Anugra Shila. He is not at all fierce. He is a very nice person. That is a small biruda that he includes as a separate word among the shlokas. And then he goes on to say, Yadina Vidhata Bharato, Yadina Harira Narado Navaskandaha, Bodhum Kaiva Samartaha Sangeetam Kalakalasya Samaradhananjayaha Sangramudhiraha. So the shloka is very interesting, where he says, Yadi na vidhata bharataha, na vidhata bharataha, harihi, naradaha, skandaha. If it is not for these people, yadi na, kayeva samartaha, who is eligible? For what they are samartha? Bodhum kaiva samartaha, bodhum kim bodhum, sangeetam kalakalasya. For understanding the music of Kalakala, Kalakala is Shiva, because he is Kala Mardana. He destroys the Garba of Kala or Yama. So for understanding the music of Shiva, who is qualified? Nobody can understand. If it is not for the Vidhata, if it is not for Bharata, if it is not for Brahma, if it is not for Bharata Muni, Bharata Maharshi, who wrote the Natya Shastra, if it is not for Hari, if it is not for Narayana, if it is not for Narada, who is always the Veena Pani, or if it is not for Skanda, who is Kartikeya. So if not for these great five people like Bharata, Narada, Narayana, Skanda, and Brahma, if not for these people, who can understand the music of Kalakala or Shiva? So Kalakala also is a birda that he gives to himself in other places. So it is again a Slesha, where it might also refer to the music that he is able to play. It can also be the music of Bhagavan Shiva himself. So he says, and it is also very important historically, because this is the first inscription that talks about Bharata Maharshi in South India, in epigraphy of South India. So that way we conclude the Atirana Chanda inscription, go into Ganesha Ratha. Here we will look at the last shloka, it was in Arya. Yadina Vidhata is in Arya. Very beautiful meter. Going into Ganesha Ratha inscription, some select inscription, we will not be looking at all the inscriptions. So, Sambhavasthiti Samhara Karanam Vita Karanaha Bhuyat Atyanta Kamaya Jagatam Kama Vardanaha Amayas Chitramayaso Abaguno Gunabhajanaha Swastho Niruttaro Jiya Danisha Parameshwaraha Yasyangushta Bharakrantaha Kailashasya Dashananaha Patara Madhavan Murtana Srinidhistam Vivartyajam. Beautiful, beautiful shlokas. So the contrast that is brought about in these shlokas are very, very unique, where he starts by saying Virodhavati Abhasa. So he says Sambhavasthiti Samhara Karanam Vita Karanaha. So Shiva, who is Jagat Karana, because of him all Jagat is there. Sambhava, Sthiti and Samhara. All the three works of Sambhava to give birth, Sthiti to protect, and Samhara to destroy. All the three works of the, to be performed on the universe, on Prakriti, he is being done by Shiva. He is the Sambhava Sthiti Samhara Karana, Parantu, but he is also Vita Karana. He has no reason to exist. He is there. And you can also say that he is doing all this without reason. Jalatadanavata he is doing. So, Sambhava Sthiti Samhara Karanam Vita Karanaha Bhuyat Atyanta Kamaya. To this Atyanta Kama, Bhuyat, you should be Jagadam Kama Mardanaha. Kama Mardana, he has destroyed all desire. But the person, Shiva, who did the Kama Mardana or destruction of desire, should be merciful to Atyanta Kama, who has endless desire. That is the contrast that he brings out in the poem. Amaya Chitramaya so Avaguno Gunabhajanaha. Look at that beauty. Amaya, he has no Maya. Amayaha Chitramaya so, but he is the reason for all the Vichitra Mayas to exist, all the different illusions to exist. Avaguno Gunabhajanaha. He is Gunatita, he is Nirguna Brahma, Parantu, but then Gunabhajanaha, he is also Sakala Kalyana Gunabhajana. He also has all the Mangala attributes to him, but he is also, Avaguna. He does not have any Guna to him. And Avaguna can also be in something derogatory, and therefore he is Avaguna Gunabhajana. He has beautiful qualities. That contrast he brings just within one word. Sastho Niruttaro Jiyat Anishaha Parameshwarah. Let him always be here, but he is Anishah. He has no God, but he is Parameshwara. Anishah Parameshwarah. Yasya Ankushta Bharakrantah Kailasah Sadashananah Patala Magaman Murdhana Srinidhistam Vivartyajam. So, because he talks about the Kailasha episode of Ravana, where Ravana is trying to lift the Kailasha mountain, and he is talking about that, and because of just his Angushta Matra, the Kailasa weight is becoming unbearable to Ravana, and that he has gone to Patala because of that. And Srinidhi Tam Vivarti Ajam, that Shiva that was not to be, it was not even, Ravana himself was not able to do that feat, but then Shiva, the weight of Shiva along with Kailasha is being borne by this king. It is generally believed that this is by Parameshwara Varman. Some people say this shloka is by Rajasimha, and many scholars tried to say that this shloka, if it is there in the end of an inscription or in an inscription, it is a signatory inscription of Rajasimha. Some people said it is a signatory inscription of Parameshwara Varma. If this shloka is there, it is his. But then Dr. Shankar Narayanan has given a very beautiful information to us that says that this shloka is found in the Anushasanika Parva of Mahabharata, where the Shiva's Mahatmya is being told by Bhishma Pitamaha. He says this shloka in Mahabharata itself, and it is there in the critical edition also. Diktesham punarapi digastha diktesham yeshanna vasati hridaye kupatagati vimokshako rudraha. So diktesham, let them dig. Let them be cursed. Diktesham, punarapi digastha diktesham. Let them be cursed again and again and again. Who? Yesham na vasati hridaye. In whose heart? Yesham hridaye na vasati. In whose heart does not dwell kupatha gati vimokshako rudraha. Rudraha, yaha rudraha kupatha gati vimokshakaha asti. Saha yesham hridaye na vasati diktesham. In whose heart Rudra, who is the person, who is the god who destroys all the bad paths that comes in between, let that Shiva, if that Shiva is not residing in the hearts of the people, then let them be cursed. And this is a shloka that repeatedly occurs in many monuments across Mahabalipuram. And this is a shloka not by these Pallava kings. Of course, they have taken it, but they have taken it from Mahabharata, from Anushasanika Parva. This is a new finding that has not been noted previously. It is given by Dr. Shankar Narayanan. Now, we enter the grand monument of Rajasimha Pallaveshwara Griham. So that is in Grantha script, Sri Rajasimha Pallaveshware, it is written. So, so that is written. And here, now today, as we saw in the introduction itself, Idanim, we know it as, as Kailashanatha. Before it was called as Sri Rajasimha Pallaveshwara Griham. And it perhaps, because this is called as Kailasanatha today, and maybe perhaps because the Vaikunta Perumal temple that was built later than Kailashanatha, because that was called as Vaikuntanatha, maybe this became Kailasha, is what Gopusar says. Probably that is also true. And in Chola times, this temple was called as Kachipettu Periyadirikkachali, as per the inscriptions of the Cholas who were here. And some of the panels that are there, the iconography, the architecture, each and everything of the temple is just amazing. If you look at the Bhikshatana panel, you look at Kiratarjuniya panel, some rare panels like Jalandhara Sambhava, Jalandhara Badha, etc. The iconography wise, this temple is a treasure trove. Unfortunately, it is very less explored academically. More writing needs to be done. But it is a fantastic temple, mind-boggling temple. You just enter the temple, you will lose yourself. But because our title is not to go into the iconography or the Dhyana Shlokas or anything like that, I will stick to inscriptions. But I am just showing a glimpse into the beauty, only sample into the beauty of what Kailashanatha is. Now, getting into the inscriptions of Kailashanatha, we have the titles or biridas that we already saw in the inscription, in the introduction. We will look at some of the titles that are there. there are dedication. There is a dedication inscription by Rajasimha Pallava of the Rajasimha Pallaveshwara Griham, which we will see, not all shlokas but sample shlokas. Then we will also look at the Mahendra Varmeshwara, another temple that is there in the complex that is built by the son of Rajasimha Pallava called Mahendra Varman. We will look at the inscription, dedication inscription of that shrine, and then dedication inscription of Rangapataka. Who that Rangapataka is another question that we will answer. And inscriptions of other kings like Chalukyas, Cholas, etc., which we will not be seeing today. We will stick to Pallava Grantha. These photos I have taken largely from the internet and mainly from Sri Rangaratnam Gopu sir's blog. So thanks to him for lending these photos. This is how it is written. If you look at the script as such, there is a Nagari and Grantha. Both are used. This is the Nagara script below. That Alankara Nagari, you can look at the beautiful calligraphy that they have done. And on top, if you can see, this is the Grantha script that is there. And this is Gopu sir. Gopu sir has done this square box also. So I've just taken from him. So if you look at this, this is Nagara here, and this is Grantha. So if you look at it, this is how the Birudas are inscribed. So here it is plain Grantha which has gone today. The Alankara Grantha still survives here. So this is how the Birudas are written one after the other. So here if you can recognize the first letter alone, it is Shri. Shri. And this Shri will repeat here. Another Shri. Another Shri, another Shri, another Shri, another Shri, another Shri. So that many names are there. Every name will be prefixed with a Shri. And because it might be difficult to observe here, I have written it in hand and placed it here for us to see. Of course, it is not as beautiful as that. Maybe some errors are also there. It is all my mistake. But what they have written, just in this box, whatever is there, I am giving as a sample. So, Shri Ajayaha. He is unwinnable. Ajayaha. Shri Guna Vinitaha. That's very funny, kind of an oxymoron, where he says, he is putting hundreds and hundreds of titles to himself, that he is this, he is that, he is Samaradhananjayaha, he is Sangramadhiraha, Ahavadhiraha, etc., etc., etc. But then he says, I am very, humble, and he says, I am Shri Guna Vinitaha. So, such an oxymoron he brings in. And Shri Avani Divakaraha, he is like the sun to the whole world. Avani Divakaraha. Shri Kala Samudraha, he is like the ocean of arts. Shri Ahavadhiraha, he is the Dhira when it comes to Ahava or war. He is a very valorous warrior. Shri Kalakopaha. Kalakopa is again the one who is eternal, who has done the Bahishkaram of Kala. But when you come to that, if you look at Shiva also, he is equating himself to Shiva kind of, because Kalakopa is also Shiva. Look at some very interesting Birudas. With respect to war, I have kind of classified it a little and given some samples. Shri Ahava Kesari. He is the Kesari, lion in war, Ahava. Shri Ahavadhiraha. There is a spelling mistake, Va is not there. Shri Ahavadhiraha, which you have already seen. Shri Ahavabhimaha. He is Bhima, very stout in Ahava in war. Sangrama Ramaha. He is like Rama in Sangrama in war. Shri Samaradhananjayaha. He is like, he is like Arjuna in Samaradhananjaya. He is like Arjuna in war. Shri Rana Veeraha. In war, he is a great valorous warrior. Rana Veeraha. Shri Kanchi Mahamanihi. He is the Mahamani of Kanchi. Shri Kanchi Mahamanihi. Shri Shankara Bhaktaha. These are all showing the bhakti of him. Shri Shankara Bhaktaha. Shri Ishwara Bhaktaha. Shri Devadeva Bhaktaha. Shri Ishana Sharanaha. These are all showing his Shiva Bhakti and showing his musical prowess. Shri Veena Naradaha, he is like Narada when he plays the Veena. Shri Vadya Vidyadharaha, he is like a Vidyadhara when he plays Vadyas. Atodya Tumburu, when he is on the Atodya, he is like Tumburu and Narada on Veena. And then showing his prowess and showing his dana and other qualities that are attributes that are very good. Shri Meghaha, he is like the cloud that is ready to flourish or pour down wealth. Shri Meghaha. Daridra Anukampi, he has the capability to do away with Daridra or poverty. Shri Dana Shuraha, He's a Shura when giving dana. Shri Parahitaha, he always does good to other people. Bahudakshinaha, he gives a lot of dakshina. Shri Rakshamanihi, he always protects people. Shri Ashrita Vatsalaha, whoever comes as refuge to him, he is always protecting them. Shri Ashrita Vatsalaha. Shri Agama Pramanaha, this shows his interest in Agama and literature and scriptures. Shri Agama Pramanaha and Shri Itihasa Priyaha, he is lover of Itihasa. And to come into the Vedas that talk about his beauty, Shri Nitya Utsahaha, Shri Nayana Manoharaha, Shri Charu Vilasaha, etc. Now, this is where the Shasana inscription is going to come. It goes as an Apradakshina fashion in the temple. And so if we go and try, as we do Pradakshina, if you try, we will be doing the wrong thing, reading from the last shloka, that too from the last letter. So if we want to read it, we have to do an Apradakshina. So it actually starts, whatever, if we go today and read, we will have to start with these letters. Tanmanojas tatchonuhu Shakramantri Guru Namrata Bhujantasya. But then previously you have a small verse that is recorded by Kulz and other English scholars, but we don't have it today because unfortunately because of some later period construction that is there. Twan jatabihi nilatvam kantas damna pranamani kiranaihi shonima anandadhana. That is talking about Ganga. May that Ganga make you, purified, etc. Some connection with Ganga Devi and the Ganga Utpatti is there with the Pallavas, that also gives credibility to the argument that the famous Arjuna's penance panel in Mahabalipuram is actually not Arjuna's penance panel, but it is a panel of Gangavatara, because some connection is always seen, in like Gangavatara Eva, Vamshavataraha, in another copper plate, I think in Kuram copper plate, they say that the Pallava Vamsha is like Gangavatara. And then you see in here also, Kailashanatha also, we have this connection. The starting inscription is because with Gangotpatti, and therefore it gives some credibility to the argument that it is not Arjuna's penance that is depicted in Mahabalipuram, but Gangavatara, Gangotpatti, and it is Bhagiratha's penance. But that aside, that is not our topic. But just to say that it starts with the Gangavatara, it goes into Stan Manojas Takshunuhu Chakramantri Guru Amrita Bhujantasya Shayus Tanujaha Tasmat Ugraprabhavat Tribhuvana Mahita Labdha Janma Munindraha Sashriman Pallavanam Kulanidhira Bhavatyo Bharadvajanama Tasmat Dronasya Ramat Gururati Mahitaha Pandavanam Kurunam Ashwattama Tatobhut Prudhuravanimrita Sthiryamana Bahari Tatsunuhu Pallavakyaha Sakala Vasumati Bhoginam Parthivanam Shuranam Adibhuto Manuriva Jainam Andavayasya Karta. Such a beautiful inscription where he starts this thing is there. The continuous lineage is spoken about, where it starts with Vidhata or Brahma, and then it goes into Angiras, and Angiras, Manoja, from Brahma's Manas, Angiras has come, and Angiras, after Angiras, Brihaspati has come, and Brihaspati is both Tatsunuhu, Shakramantri, Guru Amrita Bhujantaha. Brihaspati is the Guru of Indra. Shakra is Indra. Brihaspati is the Guru of Indra, and and the Mantri of Indra as well. So Tatsunuhu Shakramantri Guru Amrita Bhujantasya, and then Shamyu. Shamyu Tanujaha. Then Shamyu comes, and then Shamyu is born Bharadvaja. Tribhuvana Mahitan Labdha Janma Munindraha Sashriman Pallavanam Kulanidhi Abhavatyo Bharadvaja Nama. Bharadvaja Maharshi is the Kulanidhi of the Pallavas. And they all claim that they are from the Bharadvaja Gotra. So Bharadvaja is the Kulanidhi of Pallavas. Tasmat Dronasya Ramat Gururati Mahitaha Pandavanam Kurunam. When Drona comes, Drona is the Guru of both the Pandavas and Kauravas, and to him is born Ashwathama. Ashwathama Tato Bhutu Prudhuravanimritaha. And Visheshana to Ashwathama is that Sthairya Mana Apahari. He kills the pride of all his enemies. Thairya Mana Apahari Ashwathama Tato Bhut Prithuravanimrita Thairya Mana Apahari Tatsunuhu. To Ashwathama and Menaka, who was sent by Indra, was born Pallavakyaha. This is where till now Purana Parampara is there. Now they start their own claim, which cannot be found in the Moola Puranas. So he says that Pallava is born, a person called Pallava is born. Sakala Vasumati Bhoginam Parthivanam Shuranam Adibhuto Manuriva Jayinam Anvavayasya Karta. Like how Manu is to Manushya Kula, Manu Bhagavan is to Manushya Kula, like that Pallava is to Pallava Kula. He is the Agraganya of the Kula, and he enjoyed the all of earth. He was like as if he is the Ekachhatradipati. He enjoyed all of earth. Sakala Vasumati Bhoginam Parthivanam, Pallava Parthivanam, Shuranam, they are also Shuras. Manuriva Jainam, like Manu to Manushyas, Pallava is to Pallavas. So Tatsunuhu Pallavakyaha, this is Ashwathama doing a tapasya, and Menaka is coming, and they both have a son. They are being put in a small leaf, this thing, where Pallava is the child who is being born. This is a sculpture from Vaikuntha Perumal temple in Kanchipuram. Then this is where the beauty comes into picture. Tesham vamshe prasutaha Ranarasika Puron Mardanad Agradandat Subramanya Kumaro Guhaiva Paramadishwara Tatta Janma Shaktikshunna Rivargo Vidita Bahunaya Shaiva Siddhanta Marge Shriman Atyanta Kama Shata Sakala Malo Durdhara Pallavanam. So therefore he says Tesham Vamshe, in that Vamsha Prasutaha is born Rana Rasika Puron Mardanad Agradandaha. The Mardana or the slayer of Rana Rasika Pura. Rana Rasika Pura is the capital of Chalukyas. After Badami is kind of destroyed, they set up their capital as a satellite city near Badami called as Rana Rasika Pura. And that Rana Rasika Pura is conquered, or at least it is gone and fought over by Parameshwaravarma. There is no other record that says that Parameshwaravarman went and conquered or at least fought at Ranarasikapura other than this inscription. So it is very, very important. Of course, Kuram plates do talk about Parameshwaravarman's Yuddha and they give a beautiful Varnana, Varantu, but then there is no place where it is said that Parameshwaravarma specifically went to Ranarasikapura and fought. That we get only from this. Therefore, it is very, very important inscription in that sense. And then he says, Subramanya Kumaro Guhaiva Paramad Ishwara Tapta Janma. Tesham Vamse, in that Vamsha, like how Kumara Sambhava happened from Shiva. He is born Kumara or Subramanya, like that Guha, Kumara, Subramanya, who is Kartikeya, like how he was born from whom? He was born from Parameshwara, Paramadishwara, Tapta Janma, Subramanya, Kumaraha, Guha, Eva, like that, like Subramanya being born from Parameshwara, Rajasimha is also born from Parameshwara, his father's name is Parameshwaravarman. Like that, from Parameshwara only I am also born. He is like Paramashiva, I am like Subramanya. Subramanya Kumaro Guhaiva Pramadishwara Tapta Janma. He is born in that Vamsha like Subramanya. And if you notice, Pallavas are especially known for their Somaskandas. This is from Mahamallapuram in the Samudrathira temple, the shore temple. And he is kind of giving an imagery as if his father Parameshwaravarman is Parameshwara, his mother is his mother is Uma, and he is the Skanda who is sitting there. Rajasimhan is sitting. And going into the next shloka, Shakti Kshunnari Vargo Vidita Bahunaya Shaiva Siddhanta Marge. Shakti Kshunna Arivargaha. Arivarga, whoever is the enemy, becomes just powdered by Shakti, by his power. Shakti Kshunna Arivargo Vidita Bahunaya Shaiva Siddhanta Marge. The first epigraphic mention of Shaiva Siddhanta Marga, that usually Shaiva Siddhanta, the literatures are much later. But this takes a very important role in determining the various Shaiva Siddhantas and the various Shaiva cults that were existing. Because in Mattavilasa Prasanam itself, how Kanchipuram was a center of very many Shaiva cults like Pashupata, Kalamka, and etc. We are already seeing from Mattavilasa Prasana, from Mahendravarman's period itself. Now, when you look at the inscription of Rajasimha here, Shaiva Siddhanta is being patronized by the royals also. Therefore, he says, Vidita Bahunayaha Shaiva Siddhanta Marge, and finds an epigraphic mention. It is very, very important. विदित बहुनीय शैव सिद्धांत मार्गे श्रीमान अत्यंत कामः क्षत सकल मलो दूर्धर पल्लवानां सकल malaha दूर्धरः. He has, you know, he is above all the kali malas that are there, and he is Shriman Atyanta Kamaha, who follows Shaiva Siddhanta Marga. So a very beautiful shloka that is there. Nothing great about the shloka. This we will find in many places in Sanskrit Vangmaya, in the Sahityas and many kavyas. So it's a usual varnana which is, you know, beautiful nevertheless. Kalachatra Yoshitam Rahasi Ranjane Manmataha Trayipatha Niveshanam Niveshinam Satatapalane Vasavaha Munidvija Suradvisham Hridayadarane Madhavaha Sachadravina Sampada Sujanatoshane Vittadaha. So he says Kala Chatura Yoshita, in among the Yoshitam, among those people who are well versed, you know, among the ladies who are well versed in arts, Kala Chatura Yoshitam Rahasi Ranjane Manmataha. He is like Manmatha or Cupid in satisfying those, you know, those ladies. Not exactly satisfying, but in being along with those ladies and enjoying their pleasure. So, and that too in secrecy. Rahasi Ranjane Manmataha Trayipatha Niveshinam Satatapalane Vasavaha. Like Indra, he protects all the people who are following Trayipatha, the Vedas, Rigyajush Sama. Whoever is following the Trayipatha, the Brahmanas, or anybody who is following the Vedic path, Satata Palane Vasavaha, he protects them like Indra does his subjects. And Muni Dvija Surat Madhavaha, like Madhava, he protects these people who are Muni, who are all Rishis and Munis, Dvija, who are Brahmanas, Sura, who are Sura, who are Devas, Dvisham. He is protecting them like Madhava, like Narayana, and such a Dravida Sampada Sujana Toshane Vittadaha. He is always giving Sujana, all the nice people, good people, Toshane, in making them very happy. And how do you make good people happy? You give them money. So he is Dravida Sampada. He is always giving money. How can you give money? You have to have so much money. And you will have so much money if you are Vittada, who is Kubera. So in giving money and donation and dana, and in keeping those people, good people happy, Sujana Toshane, Vittadaha, he is like Kubera. Okay. And then very another wonderful this thing where he says, Dushyanta Pramukaihi Shruta Ambaragata Vani Shariram Vina Kshmanataihi Muradashra Bhiryadi Krite Kanvadibihi Svikritaihi Tan Na Ascharyam Idam Punaha Kaliyuge Dhuri Bhavat Sadgune Soshroshiditi Tam Giram Mahadaho Vismapanam Shri Bharaha. He says, you know, in Krita Yuga, somewhere in Krita Yuga, in Krita Yuga, somebody like Dushyanta Pramukaihi Shruta Ambaragata Vani, Shariram Vina Vani, Ya Ambaragata Vani, Sa Dushyanta Pramukaihi Shrutam. Whatever the Ambaragata Vani, that is the Ashariri or the Shariram Vina, that does not have a form, but only the voice is heard, the divine voice that is being spoken about by the gods, the divinities, were heard in Krita Yuga by great people like Dushyanta, that we see in many kavyas and Puranas. And we also see that that was also Shrutam by Kandvadibihi. Many rishis are listening to that. And that is happening when that is happening in Krita Yuga. Tanna Ascharyam. What is there in that? It is in Krita Yuga. Everything is great. Everybody is following dharma. Everybody is in a justified mode, and therefore people are hearing the gods, and the gods are speaking to them, and it is heard by again great people like Dushyanta and Kanva rishis. That is Tanna Ascharyam. That is not the thing to be wondered. Tanna Ascharyam Idam Punaha. That is happening today. Kali Yuge Duri Bhavat Sadgune. All the Sadgunas, whatever is the good qualities, are all gone. Kali Yuge Duri Abhavat Sadgune. Shoshroshi Ditam Iti Tam Mahadaho Vismapanam Shri Bharaha. Shri Bhara or Rajasimha, who is called Shri Bhara, He hears Akasha Sharira, Akashavani, Shariram Vina, Ambaragata Vani, he is hearing. There is a wonderful legend that connects, of course, it is not a direct reference. There is a legend that connects a temple that was built in Hridaya by a Dasa, Shiva Dasa in Tirunendravoor called as Kushalar Nayanar. And he did not have money, he was a mendicant and he was a great Shiva Bhakta. So he started building a temple in his own heart and he built one by one. And therefore, he goes on to build it, and at some point of time he decides I should do a consecration ceremony to my temple that I have built in my heart, and he decides the date for that also. In his heart only, with utmost bhava, he is building a temple. And you know, Rajasimha has built this huge Atimanam Atyadbhutam, huge temple he has built, never seen before. So much money is spent, such artwork is there, grand, gorgeous. But Shiva comes as this Ashariri Vani and tells Rajasimha, I cannot come to your temple because you have also kept the same date as the consecration ceremony of Kushalar. I have to go to that temple that is being built. Now, Rajasimha is wondering, in my territory, in my country, who is building a temple that is more beautiful than my temple? This is a huge temple that I have built with wonderful art and architecture. And then when Rajasimha, it is just a legend, when Rajasimha goes and inquires who has built a temple in Tirunendravoor like that, people say that this is a person who is building in his heart. Reluctantly, Kushala replies, and therefore it is known that not for a great celebration and jingoism that goes on by some great kings, they have built a great temple, grand temple. There, Bhagavan is not going to reside. Parantu, if some small dasa is singing somewhere with utmost tears, there he will reside, not in grandeur, not in great, structures that were being built. There he will not reside. He would rather prefer the bhava instead of the veera and the glamour that is associated with such temples. So this is the grand temple that he has built. Bhavanam etad udyapitam harasya harahasa rupam. Now we come to the title of the lecture. Harasya harahasa rupam atimanam atyadbhutam. It's like as if Shiva is sitting and laughing, or as if this has stolen the laughter of Shiva, that beautiful smile it has given to itself. Harasya harahasa rupam atimanam atyadbhutam. All in superlative degree only. It is a huge, it is also the grandest. Atimanam atyadbhutam harasya harahasa rupam, as if it has stolen the laughter or smile of Shiva himself. And Shri Rajasimha Pallaveshware Nagendra Bhoga Bhima Bhushana Devasurendra Vrindavandita Sthane Stitostu Shankaras Chiram. The first inscription that Shri Gopu made me read. So I'm again and again grateful to him. Shri Rajasimha Pallaveshware Nagendra Bhoga Bhima Bhushana Devasurendra Vrindavandita Sthane Stitostu Shankaras Chiram. Sthane Shankaraha Chiram Stito Astu. In this place, let Shankara reside here always. Where? In Rajasimha Pallaveshwara, that is the temple's name. Shri Rajasimha Pallaveshware Nagendra Bhoga Bhima Bhushana. He wears Nagabharanas. Devasurendra Vrindavandita. He is being worshipped by all the Devas and Suras. Vrindavandita. All the crowds of Devas are coming, and Hara Hara Jaya Jaya, they are all worshipping him. May that Shiva Sthane Stito Astu Shankaraha Chiram. Let him be here always, forever and ever and ever. Shaile Kailasalilam Apaharati Grihe Rajasimheshwarakyam Bibhratyabhram Lihagre Virachayatu Sada Samidanam Vrishankaha. Vrishanka is another interesting thing, because Vrishanka is also Pallava, because they also had their insignia as a Vrishabha. So Bibhratyabhram Lihagre, it is going and touching the sky, that Vimana that we saw. Virachayatu Sada Samidanam Rajasimha Pallaveshwarakyam. May Shiva always stay here. And then some more birdas that are coming up. He says, he as a shloka, he is giving these the birdas. Rajasimho Ranajayaha Shribaras Chitrakarmukaha Yekaviras Chirampatu Shivachuda Manirmahim. All are birdas that are there. And we go on to, this is the layout. I am not describing any architecture or anything because we do not have time. That is another topic by itself. huge topic by itself. Some Devakulikas, the small shrines are there. In 4 sides, there are small shalas that are, you can differentiate and see to make it as Sarvado Bhadra. The first one is Rajasimheshwara, which is the main temple where the Shasana inscription starts here. Stanmano, Jastat Somuhu, Shakramantri starts here and it goes Apradakshina like this and ends here. Ekaviras Chirampadu, Shivachuda, Manir Mahim comes here. It ends here, and in between there is this mantapa which is recently built, and you have another Mahamantapa here. This you see is not a mantapa or a gopura. This is actually the second shrine that was built by the son of Rajasimheshwara, which is the Mahendra Varameshwara. And here this is the Rangapataka shrine that we see, about which we will see just now. Okay, this is the second shrine that has been built by Mahendra Varameshwara, Mahendra Varma. He says, Tena Shri Rajasimheshwara Griha Vihite Shri Mahendreshware Asmin Avase Kritivasa. May the Kritivasa do Nityavasa in this shrine. Saha Guha Parishan Mandalaihi Sannidhattam. May he be here again, like what we saw in Adhirana Janda inscription. May he be here along with Guha and Parishan Mandalaihi. Tena idam Rajasimheshwara Nikatatamam. Nikatatara, very near. Indeed, it is very near. So he says, Tena idam Rajasimheshwara Nikatatamam Utthabitam Sa Prasado Nityavasam Mahendreshwara Griham Amumaya Sardam Isham Vidhatta Mahendra Varameshwara Griham. He also gives the name of the temple, Mahendra Varameshwara Griham. He says that. And this is the Rangapataka. Who she is a question. Many scholars say that she is the wife of Rajasimha, and she has constructed a temple inside the complex of Kailasana, just outside the temple complex. But Professor Shankaranarayanan gives a different view, that she is actually the mother of Rajasimha and wife of Parameshwara Varma. There are some reasons to it, which we can see now. So this is an inscription very interesting because it starts with Namah Shivaya, with the Panchakshara it starts. And Bhartuhu Puronmathana Drishta Dhanur Balasya Shailadhiraja Tanayeva Vrishadvajasya Ya Kalakala iti Vishruta Punyakirtehe Kanta Nitanta Deita Parameshwarasya. This is why Professor Shankaranarayanan is giving that theory. He says, Ya Kalakala iti Vishruta Punyakirtehe Kanta Parameshwarasya Kanta. Actually, it talks about Uma, but since these Pallava kings are always known for doing a slasha between themselves and the Shiva family, it is possible that she is Parameshwara's Kanta, Parameshwara Varman's wife. Uma Parvati is as usual Parameshwara's Kanta. Kanta Nitanta Daita Parameshwarasya. Also, Vrishadvaja is Shiva as well as Pallava. They are also having a Vrishadvaja. Kala Kala is a title attributed by, yes, Parameshwara Rajasimha also. We cannot say that. And Puron Mathana is Ranarasikapura's Mathana is Parameshwara, not Rajasimha. So Bhartuhu Puron Mathana and Purari is Tripura Mathana, which was done by Shiva. So Puron Mathana Drashtur Dhanur Balasya Shailadhiraja Tanayeva Vrishadvajasya Ya Kalakala iti Vishruta Punyakirtehe Kantan Kanta Deita Parameshwarasya. And yeah, the doubt comes where here she says, Deve Jagadvalaya Baddha Rakshana Baddha Dikshe Nirbhinna Shatru Hridaye Narasimha Vishnu. So is it Narasimha Vishnu's wife, or as she says Parameshwara Varma's wife? This is where the question arises. Let us not go into all of that. But the Shasana, the dedication inscription comes here. Nirmitapi Nirmapitam idam dhama taya chandra shikhamanehe patakayeva narinam ramyam rangapatakaya. Like patakayeva narinam. She is like the pataka, a flag to all the naris, all the ladies. She is a jewel among the ladies. Ramyam rangapatakaya nirmapitam idam dhama. This temple is being constructed very beautifully by Rangapataka. Rangapatakaya nirmapitam idam dhama. Ramyam dhama idam nirmapitam. She has made this beautiful. So if you look at the Kailasanath temple in terms of history, in terms of architecture, in terms of art, and in terms of paintings also, we have not covered the paintings, in terms of iconography, in terms of inscription. Under inscription, you look at scripts, 4 types of writings that are there in Nagara and in Grantha, birdas that are there, very, very unique, hundreds of birdas that are being claimed by Rajasimha. Then you have the title inscriptions, which are the birdas, and then you have the inscription by various figures of the royal family. If you see, Rajasimha is writing, Mahendra Varma is writing, Rangapataka is writing, so the whole family of the royal family comes and writes here. And then the meter of Chandas is also very beautiful. So many Chandas he uses here. And then the Alankaras or the embellishments that are there, that is another study. And poetic aesthetic, or the rasa that he brings out in these poems are also unique. And also some, I have not ventured into the grammar part of it, some unique prayogas of Panini, where for example, when he says Thairya Manapahari, ir, half ya and ya, ya will come. There is a Panini Sutra that says if a ra is to be cut and another syllable is to be put there, consonant is to be put there, then then dve, that consonant will become twice. Stairya, ya. But that rule, that sutra is optional, and we don't find it in Uttara Bharata. We find it only in Dakshina Bharata, and Pallavas use it every time. So such rare Paninian prayogas are also there in the inscription. So such things I have not gone into, but I think I have done at least some justice to the topic, because it's a huge ocean and I have stuck to inscriptions, but there is a lot more to talk on these Pallava Shasanas. So with that, with great thanks to Samskrita Samiti and IIT Madras, and to Sri Hari Mahodaya, who has been instrumental in organizing and to having me here, I end my small lecture. I would open the floor for comments and questions. Thank you. Namaskar.
Yeah. Namaste. Thank you very much, Mahodaya. As you said, each and every topic of each and every aspect of Kailasanatha temple can be taken as an individual PhD topic. That's what as I feel. So there are some questions. The first question is from Mr. Vijay Dhavala. So he has asked, Guha Gana means Skanda and Ganas, or Skanda and Ganesh. So that is the question.
That's an interesting question. But Gana is usually referring to the Bhuta Ganas, is what scholars say. I don't think it can be Ganesha. I don't think so. Because that is what I think. It cannot be Ganesha, is what I think.
Okay. One more question was asked by Balaji Narasimhan. Mr. Balaji Narasimhan. Are the inscriptions during Pallava period mostly in Sanskrit or also in Tamil?
The early inscriptions, the earliest inscriptions of Pallavas in the copper plates are in Prakrit. Then Sanskritam comes into picture in this era. Later, Tamil also comes into play. Tamil also is there. Yes.
And we have two questions from Mr. Vignesh Ganesh. So, sir, are all the inscriptions written outside along the wall in the Pradakshina path of the Kailasanatha temple, or in the Mantapa, or in the Garbhagriha also?
No, all these inscriptions are in the Pradakshina Patha, that is the outer circumambulation path that are there. The Rangapataka's inscription is on the Vajana or Pattika, we say in architectural terms. There she has written, and all these Birudas are written in the Adhisthana portion. In the Jagati, they have written the Nagara inscription, and in the Kumuda, the Tripatta Kumuda, the middle part of the Tripatta Kumuda, they have written the Grantha inscription, and in the top portion, the Vajana, they have written the other Grantha inscription that is there. So that is how it is organized. In the Adhisthana itself, they will cover from the Jagati, Kumuda, and the Vajana. There itself they will cover, and it is only there in the so it is there in the Pradakshina Patha only. In the Mantapas, there are inscriptions, but they don't belong to the Pallavas. The Chalukya inscription is there, a Chola inscription is there in the Mantapas. Yes.
And one more thing from Vignesh Ganesh only. Sir, also Rajasimha, the only one who commissioned the Pancharathas, or did his predecessors also build?
That is a contentious topic that is being debated by scholars, but maybe we can say that they were commissioned during the reign of Parameshwara Varman. Probably, again, I'm getting into controversy. There will be people who will refute this. It is probable that it was commissioned by Parameshwara Varman and completed by Rajasimha. It is probable that that is happening. But if you look at the Ratha, which we saw, Dharmaraja Ratha, the name of the temple is given as Atyantakama Pallaveshwara Griham. Probably it was completed and it was inscribed by Rajasimha, but it was started by Parameshwara Varman. Probably. Again, it is a debatable topic. It is a huge topic for a PhD research itself. Are the scripts in Tirumala inscriptions also same as the Grantha scripts, or is it different? It is different because it is not this Grantha, this old Pallava Grantha we do not get in Tirumala. We do not get it there. That Grantha, we get Grantha inscription, but that is a later period Grantha, not Pallava Grantha. Tirumala inscriptions we don't get as old as Pallavas. We don't get that. So the Grantha is a little different there.
And Balaji Narasimhan Mahodaya has asked, are the different titles in these slokas given by themselves or by some poets?
Usually they are given by the poets. If you look at the Chola inscriptions in the copper plates, we will know who is writing that this thing also. The Kavi also will be mentioned. Here the Kavi is not mentioned. Probably it was written by some Kavi, Asthana Kavi of his Darbar, we do not know. Or because they were Pallava kings, they themselves were very adept in composing poetry like Mahendra Varma and Nandi Varma. Who are very adept in Sanskrit, maybe they themselves wrote. We cannot say that because we do not have evidence.
I think this Kailasanatha temple also marks a transition from the rock or the cave architecture to the structural construction, right?
Yes, that's a very interesting question. Now, if we look at the evolution of architecture, as we saw in the chronology, Mahendra Varman's time, we only get rock cut architecture, where there is an already mother rock that is there. He is just carving it out and making a cave. Later, in Parameshwara Varman's time, we get this, Ratha architecture, where the mother rock does not remain and the whole, rock becomes a Ratha. And that all the agamic, from the basic Adhisthana, all the Shadvargas come into picture there itself. Though it is not constructed, all the Shadvargas, Adhisthana, Padavarga, Prastara, Griva, Shikara, Stupi, all the Shadvargas are present in the Rathas itself. Later, actually by Parameshwara Varman, just before Kailashanatha in Kuram, we have a small temple called as the Vidyavinita Pallaveshwara Griham. It is a Gajaprishta temple. So that temple is actually the first constructed temple. And then comes the Shore temple, which is earlier to Kailasanatha, and then comes the Kailasanatha temple. So prior to it was not as grand, definitely, but prior to Kailasanatha, Shore temple existed, and some other temples like your Vidyavinita Pallaveshwara Griham in Kuram, and some small temples like Kalambakam. These small temples did exist before the grandeur of Kailashanatha. It is not a immediate shift from rock cut to Kailashanatha.
Right.
Architectural evolution
also almost like unchanged, right? With very little modification continuing even up till now, because most of the other temples have seen a lot of modification by successive dynasties, whereas this is almost like frozen with very little modification.
Thankfully, it is like that, so we are able to decipher a lot of Pallava from what is available. Yes, definitely. But we see a lot of donations that have been made by the other kings. So if you, even the arch rivals Chalukyas have come here and donated and said that this is a wonderful temple.
Right.
What was that inflection point? I mean, from rock cut to Agama-driven structures, there should have been something that happened, because if you look traditionally at even the earlier Jain, Buddhist, and all those caves, they were all basically rock cut entities only. But something should have happened in the transition, which I mean, either a rediscovery of the Agama Shastras lost, I mean this one or something like that. Is there any information on that?
No, I think see the Agama Shastras. If we look at them, there is nothing in the Agamas or Shilpa Shastras for that matter for a Ratha architecture. No, we cannot do all the elements in Rathas. Only constructed temples are mentioned in the Agama Shastras and Shilpa Shastras. So before the Ratha architecture, it would have all been in wood or some perishable material. So we find mentions like that in Sangam era itself, Madam, Kotam, Mandram, etc., which were temples. So they must have been, but we don't get not even one monument from the Sangam era is present today in its shape. So it would have been in perishable materials like wood or something like that. Here, when the rock cut happens, they want to make it a very permanent affair, and therefore they are trying to make it into stone, is what I believe. And it is Agamas are prior to this, because in Rajasimha's time he is talking about Vidita Bahunaya Shaiva Siddhanta Marge, Agama Anusari, etc. It reaches its pinnacle. So Agamas were mentions of agamas are obtained from prior to that as well, prior to that period as well. So probably yes, Agama Shastras took their precedence, we can say, because of royal patronage, but it is not that constructed temples were not there before. We do not get them in their tangible form. I think that would be a better answer. They have replicated whatever is there in wood in these stones. Like for example, if you take the walls of the temples, there is no necessity for the kudya stambhas or the pilasters to be there, because it is stone. Stone is going to be there even if you are going to construct a plain wall like the wall that is behind me. Why are they placing these kudya stambhas? Is because they are simply replicating whatever they did in wood. If you do it in wood, you will need these pilasters for supporting the structure. So we can very well say, even the Maddalas, if you see, the Mottuvalai as we say in Tamil, all those elements are not at all required in stone. It becomes only a aesthetic value, no utilitarian value. That is a classic giveaway to say that whatever was there in wood as perishable temples is being done in stone, copied in stone to make it imperishable. I think that
is also seen in some guhas in Maharashtra, right? That replicating the wooden construction in stone.
Yeah.
So it took some time for them to actually purely think of only the stone construction and what is the minimum needed.
I don't think that was ever given up. It was only ornamented more and more and more.
Yes, yes.
Possibly same with the Sun Temple also. We just got the Ratha architecture cut in stone and made like that.
Definitely, yes. Some more questions in this thing. Who commissioned the descent of Ganga? Very debatable topic. Probably Parameshwar Varman. We cannot say for sure. Mahabalipuram is always a question. Nothing is answered for sure. Why it was left abandoned? Who commissioned what? Nothing. We know everything is a question in Mahabalipuram.
Yeah, I just have one question. The fact that the kings were using Sanskrit to explain, was Sanskrit also an elitist kind of position then? Because see, the inscriptions are all in Sanskrit. Okay, like today, people trying to give themselves plaques or this one. Was it used as that, or was that a common language which was understood by everybody? That is.
Well, I think, of course, Tamil was the lingua franca of the land that they are ruling. But as is the case in any kingdom in Tamil, in India, the Sanskrit became the official language, and for any official correspondences, Sanskrit was used. And Tamil was, of course, there. Maybe for all practical purposes, Tamil would have been used. Perhaps like how we see even in the central government gazette, Hindi and the Pradesha Bhashas being used. Perhaps like that, Sanskrit and the Pradesha Bhasha was used. That is the logical conclusion we can arrive at. And for all practical, very regal matters, Sanskrit, the usage of Sanskrit is kind of.
Or was it more of a binding language across the country?
Yes, we will have to say it was a binding language, but where everybody able to speak Sanskritam is a question that maybe we will need to research upon. But definitely, starting from Gandhara till Sri Lanka, we are getting all over the subcontinent, not even what we have as political territory of India today. Across the subcontinent, we are able to get. And if you go to a little previous to this era, even the Lipi, the Brahmi Lipi, from Gandhara in Afghanistan to Sri Lanka, a person, if he is coming, he can read the Lipi or any board that is there before the divergence of the Lipis into their Pradesha, this thing. Even the script was common from Gandhara to Sri Lanka. We can read that Brahmi Lipi also.
Even Cambodia have Gandhi script inscriptions in Angkor Wat?
It has Grantha, an evolved form of Grantha. From Pallava Grantha, it kind of separated, and the Southeast Asian scripts are kind of evolved from Pallava Grantha. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I think so. The questions are coming. A lot of questions are coming. The transition from Prakrit to Sanskrit to Tamil can also be an indicator to the region of influence of Pallavas. It's a question raised by Dr. Kalyani Gopal.
From Prakrit to Sanskrit, yes, the early Pallava plates are in Prakrit and slowly they start adopting Sanskrit. That we see a very clear transition. But again, Prakrit was not spoken in Tamil Nadu. So Prakrit was adopted as the regional, regal language. Then they shifted to Sanskrit. Yes, shift from Sanskrit to Tamil. I don't know if it is really a shift. They started using both the languages. They did not give up on Sanskrit, is what we see. Even later than Pallavas, if you look at the Cholas, who come after the Pallavas, all their copper plates are not in Tamil. They start with the Swasti Shri and they go on and on and on in Sanskritam. They end at one point and then they start whatever the grant or whatever is there, that alone is written in Tamil. So they are all in both Ubhaya Bhashas only. So this, I wouldn't say there is a shift from Sanskritam to Tamil, but Sanskritam and Tamil. That is probably a better way to put it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
What I mean is the preponderance of early Prakrit may be one of the also reasons why historians were trying to look at a non-Tamil origin to the Pallavas somewhere in the north, even if it's not the Pallavas, but at least maybe the Andhra region or something from where they
The
were
Andhra region is what is agreed upon.
where
Yes.
they were able to capture Kanchi and that became their capital. Like for example, there are some characters like Trilochana Pallava, and they're trying to connect. So
Correct. That like Trilochana Pallava or Mukkanti Pallava.
Language being used.
So, and my question now is this Rajamahendravaram, which is Rajamandri, named after the Pallava Rajamahendravarman, or was there a Satavahana Rajamahendravarma?
No, that is more of Chola, Chalukya Chola, Chalukyas and Cholas, Vengi Chalukyas, and then an intermarriage with the Cholas. So you have the Kulottunga Chola, who was actually from both Chalukya and the Chola,
He was
but
half
who took over in the Chalukya, Chola. His brother continued that line.
Okay.
So there was this interaction. Alliance through marriage alliance. That was very, very important way of trying to patch up
His
the
mother was Chola, but yeah. As regards the Andhra tracing their origins not to Tamil Nadu directly but to Andhra, that is what is agreed upon by all the historians, that they are from Andhra. They were ruling along with the Ikshvakus and other this thing under the Shatavahanas, and then they spread out from there and they came down to Kanchi. And Mahendravarman's time only they lost that Andhra portion, and therefore they had to come down to Tamil Nadu. And until Kaveri from North Madras, from this Kanchipuram North Tamil Nadu region, till Kaveri was their region, they were pushed down by the Chalukyas from Andhra into Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
That addresses their Prakrit connection, because they were originally from Andhra. The Prakrit was more prachalitam than Tamil.
So I think, yeah, I have one final question, Pratik Mahodaya.
Yes, please.
Is this whatever the inscriptions which is being told, which has been explained by you, does it form an important part of architecture syllabus, the B.Arch syllabus, which is being framed by any of the boards in Tamil Nadu or in any of the boards which are there in India? Because whatever the board syllabus I have seen, it's all like architecture from Indo-Western, some other architecture. Is there any special research body which
there some people, they have one paper as to traditional architecture, just one paper. Unfortunately, the case is that it is not forming the main part of the curriculum. It needs to, especially at least in courses like conservation architecture, where people are coming to conservation architecture. Now they will be working with temples. If they want to work in India, they will be working with temples. So it is very much essential that is being made mainstream. Unfortunately, that is not there. And even at times when we are talking to well-versed, really genius conservation architects, if we speak to them, if you tell them that the Adhisthana, Kutyastamba or Kapota or something like that, they will not understand. Same thing if you say it is a plinth column and corbel, they will be able to nod their heads very nicely. So it is unfortunate that they want to work in temples. They are amazing people who will do a wonderful job, provided we also equip them with traditional architecture. I think that needs to be done. That's a very valid point that Indian education system needs to consider.
Yeah, one more question. As we IIT, like our IIT Madras is one of the top-notch institutes in the India. So, what way we can contribute, especially the technical the part, especially when it comes to conservation architecture, we the students of IIT. So
I
that we
think
can,
IIT already is organizing a wonderful lecture series, was organizing, I think because of COVID, I don't know what has happened. Every Friday it was organizing an amazing lecture series by a traditional Sthapati on the Ayadi calculation and all the Sthapati Lakshanas that are there. So IIT is already on the job, I think. Because it is one of the top-notch institutions. So yes.
yeah, only I think so. Only IIT Madras is there. I don't know about other IITs. I think
Yes,
so.
I wish all other institutions follow suit, and I think it has already been made available to many people for free. Also, people are come. All people were welcome to come to IIT and attend those lectures. Also, it is also part of the online NDLI, National Digital Library of India. This thing, so anybody can access that. It's an amazing thing that is there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Pratik Mahodaya. Thank you very much.
you so
धन्यवादः. इदानीमहम् अस्माकं समितेः कार्यकर्तः श्री लक्ष्मणराव महोदयं किञ्चित् सम्भाषणं कर्तुं प्रार्थनां करोमि. Now I request Professor Lakshman Rao sir, the faculty advisor of Sanskrit Samiti, to speak few words.
नमस्काराः. प्रतीक् महोदयेन बहु रमणीयं व्याख्यानं दत्तम्. अत्यन्तकामत्वं तैः प्रदर्शितं पल्लवानां कृते. तत्तु भगवत् कृते अत्यन्तकामत्वम् इति तैः वर्णितं. न केवलं तत् संस्कृतभाषायामपि अत्यन्तकामत्वम् अत्र द्योत्यते. यतः ये सर्वे द्रविडदेशे अपि यत् महत् संस्कृतशैली वर्तते इति बहुभिः न ज्ञायते. एतदपि बहु श्लाघनीयम्. एतत् सर्वं तैः बहु रमणीय शैलेन अस्माभिः प्रदर्शितमस्ति. We are very grateful to Pratik Murli for exposing us to a great amount of literature, Sanskrit literature that exists in this part of the world. When normally when you talk of Sanskrit literature, we think of Kalidasa and Vyasa's commentaries and also Vedas, but that Sanskrit is very popular even by people to express their thoughts is very common. It is definitely there in many literatures. Even in Telugu poetry, you find whenever they want to praise the Lord, a Telugu poet will switch over to Sanskrit and then start describing Sanskrit. And same thing is now seen from your talk that Pallava kings and maybe their own Asthana Kavis have chosen to describe many of the greatness of the Birudus of the Pallava kings in Sanskrit, and that too in very difficult meters and so on. And not only that, they have inscribed them very well for posterity. And there's a vast body of literature that many of us are not aware, and it is very good that you have exposed us, even though in a very concise form, about what exists as a Sanskrit literature in this part of the country. So it was a great thing that you have told us. And going back to the topic that was raised by Hari Ganesh, it's not only exposure of Indian traditional things to the architect, but also it highlights the importance of the need for learning Sanskrit by even architects to understand what is going on and what is being expressed. Because it is not by coincidence that people have chosen to express in Sanskrit. Even today, I'm sure at some point when you are in a contemplative mode, you may choose to express yourself also in Sanskrit. There is something about the language which definitely is worth noting. So it is so nice that you have told us about so many inscriptions that are there in the Kailas Nath temple, and we hope that you'll be able to share with us many similar thoughts in future also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now I request Mr. Ashish Pandey to kindly deliver the vote of thanks. इदानीमहं श्री आशीष पाण्डे महोदयं वन्दनार्पणं दातुं प्रार्थयामि.
नमः सर्वेभ्यः. सर्वेषां शुभसायङ्कालं. प्रथमतया अहम् अस्मिन् कार्यक्रमस्य मुख्य अतिथिं श्रीमान् प्रतीक मुरली महोदयं धन्यवादं सूचयामि। महोदयः भवन्तः अस्माकम् आह्वानं स्वीकृत्य अन्तर्जालदृश्यमाध्यमेन सम्यक् रीत्या प्रवचनं दत्तवन्तः। तदर्थं संस्कृतसमितिः भवद्भिः सादर प्रणामं करोति। कार्यक्रमस्य आयोजनार्थम् अनुमतिं दत्तं संस्थायाः प्रशासनं प्रति समितिः धन्यवादं सूचयति। कार्यक्रमस्य आयोजनार्थं सहाय दत्तं सर्वे स्वयंसेवकानः समितिः अभिनन्दनं सूचयति। अन्ते कार्यक्रमस्य सर्वे श्रोतॄणाम् अनन्तरं वीक्षकाणां समितिः सादर प्रणामं करोति। Namaste and good evening everyone. Firstly, on behalf of Sanskrit Samiti, I would like to thank our chief guest for the event, Sriman Pratik Murli Mahodaya, for accepting our request and delivering the wonderful speech on the topic of Harasya Hara Sarupam. The lecture was very informative and gave a good insight into the Sanskrit language that was present in the inscription of Pallava era. Thank you so much for that, Mahodaya. Samiti also would like to thank the administration of IIT Madras for giving the permission to conduct this event. And Samiti also would like to thank Mr. Kannan Krishnamurthy ji for smoothly hosting this event by helping us with the Zoom app. Samiti also thanks the volunteers who are there all the time for organizing this event. And finally, we would like to thank all the participants, all the viewers of this event for their presence and making this event a grand success. Thank you all. Namaste.
It was a very good talk. We really enjoyed. Thank you so much. Very scholarly, very well delivered. Right? I mean, it went on for 90 minutes, but it really kept us captivating.